Welcome to Built on Air, a podcast and video series about all things Airtable.
On today's episode, we travel to Berlin, Germany to speak with Rupert Hoffschmidt, founder of Roy Kombucha. Rupert co-founded Roy Kombucha with his business partner Fabio after they both decided to leave their careers in the digital scene. As he tells us all about the fascinating brewing and fermentation process used to make kombucha, a fermented tea with a rich history, it's clear to see how passionate and knowledgeable Rupert is about his work. He's also very excited about the possibilities afforded by Airtable, which has helped him and his team stay on track with orders and production, allowing employees to record data right from their mobile devices. The base Rupert demos for us today is his B2B Order Tracking Base, where he tracks orders placed from grocers, offices, and other businesses. He tells us about the challenges faced by many Airtable users when first starting to build a base such as this, realizing he needed a table to track line items per order. Rupert has many plans for the future of his Airtable usage, including building out a fully automated ordering platform from start to finish. Check out the show notes to learn more about Rupert and Roy Kombucha. All right. Hello, Rupert. Thank you for joining us on Built on Air.
Thank you for having me, Ali. Thanks a lot.
Of course. I'm so excited to talk to you today. I know nothing about kombucha or the industry, and you are an expert and a founder of your own company. So how did you get it?
Which is strange because for us, like when you're based in Europe, it seems like everyone is into or knows a lot about kombucha in the US, because it's such a big topic.
Yes.
But a lot of topics are very big in the US, so it's not only that, right? But yeah, it's coming in Europe, and it's going to be a lot bigger topic in the next years. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've heard. I mean, I know what it is, but I have friends that drink it. But so it's a fermented tea, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So maybe you've heard of a SCOBY.
Yeah.
Yeah, so SCOBY stands for symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast.
Okay.
So bacteria and yeast is living in symbiosis together and is fermenting. You start with a sweet tea, and the sugar gets fermented into acetic acid, but basically organic acids, a family of organic acids. And that's basically what gives kombucha its like particular flavor.
Okay.
Think about you starting with a sweet tea, and then it sort of turns into this sweet sour mix and can develop some funky flavors. And that's what it is.
That's so cool. And how did you get started in that industry?
Randomly, very randomly. So I had a company in Berlin before. I was immersed in the digital tech scene. I had a startup, and I basically sold the startup to a bigger German media house. And I had a bit of a soul searching phase in my life, sabbatical in a way. I started fermenting at home, and started doing water kefir, which is not a tea based, but it's like milk kefir, just water based.
Okay.
And I started doing that at home, and also kombucha. And I was really like, man, why is this not on the shelves? Makes so much sense, right? You have sort of a beverage which tastes good, but at the same time it has healthy components, and this should be on shelves. And I was like I was freelancing at the time. I was still sort of more in the digital space, and it took I talked to who is now my business partner in this about it. And first it was more like, hey, you told me you want to do something with your hands. I'm doing this drink. Maybe I can sort of set you up with it, and you can do it. And sort of it that was in 2018, and then step by step we sort of worked on it together, and eventually we would then launch a product just launch with it. Yeah.
That's so wonderful. Well, congratulations. And your website looks gorgeous.
Thank you.
Of course. Yeah. It looks like really, really clean, pretty, healthy, like makes me want to try it.
That's good.
Definitely. So
and there's also just as a background. So we're running this brand, which is Roy, Roy Kombucha in Berlin, where we have also we run our own brewery in Berlin. But then we also organize an industry conference for the kombucha industry. So it's called Kombucha Summit, which we do once a year. We started in 2019, had 260 people here in Berlin. Physical conference, of course, still like old world, right? Last year we did a virtual conference, and it's a huge success. It's like sort of, there are two conferences in the world for industry conferences for the kombucha world. One is in Los Angeles every year, and one is now in Berlin, run by us.
Oh
and
my gosh.
There's like in 2019, just a little side story, like because you're in the US, and like it was in the end, there was so much hype about the conference that someone from Arizona. So the conference was on a Saturday, and on a Thursday night, this guy from Arizona took a plane because he wanted to attend the conference, but he didn't have a ticket yet. So he just took the plane. He was in London. When he landed in London, he sent us an email, said, yeah, guys, so thing is, I really want to go. I'm already in Europe. I'm already in London, but I don't have a ticket. And we were booked out, fully booked out. And then, we eventually let him in, and he sort of joined last minute. But we had many people from the US as well. It was very cool.
That's
so
awesome.
We sort of have these two things, but the 95% of our time we're spending on developing the brand and pushing kombucha, or finally making it happen for kombucha to arrive in Europe with our brand called Roy.
That's wonderful. Well, I have every faith you'll be able to do it. That sounds like you've been super successful so far.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you're welcome. And how has Airtable played a role? Are you using it to plan your conference and company workings and stuff?
Everything, basically. Yeah. So there are very few things that we're not doing in Airtable. And I would say always when it involves some sort of calculation, right, then I'm still going for spreadsheets. So I also like spreadsheets a lot, and I think the invention of the spreadsheet is one of the best inventions in the software industry, basically. But when it's about organized data in some way or form, right, then Airtable sort of more database layout makes more sense. So of course, I'm a huge Airtable fan. That's of course the reason why I'm on the podcast. But it's always sort of, I have to push for Airtable in a way, so like Airtable gets adopted and is there, and people, even if you just make a simple list, it's just way better at making a list than making a list in whatever kind of list it is, but making a list in a spreadsheet.
Exactly. And it looks so much prettier too.
Exactly. Yeah. And it works mobile, which helps a lot as well.
Absolutely. And are you like onboarding your team and having them jump on the train as well for Airtable?
Yeah. Everyone has to use it in the brewery.
Nice.
It's because we use it for, so sort of the more, we use it for all types of lists and to track stuff and so on, of course. But one big area where we use it for is the brewery itself. So the logging of what are we producing, what goes in there, what are we canning, how much have we canned, sort of that stuff. What's the pH, what are all the parameters, the sugar levels, and that's why sort of in production people also have to use it, and it works really well. I think it works incredibly well, because you can use it on the phone, right? And in production you don't really have a laptop. We don't really have a laptop setup or like a big computer setup. Like it needs to be, you need to be able to use it on the phone, and for logging something quickly and so on. It's really cool. It's amazing that sort of in one database on one base you can log stuff super easily, and sort of get the data in very easily, but you can have very comprehensive and awesome calculations and very sophisticated stuff behind it in a way, right?
Exactly.
Or what then happens with the data.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You could start to build your own processes, automations, kind of use it as a launching pad, which is awesome.
Exactly.
Are you having people like on their phone, are they using like Airtable natively, or are you using like a form or mini extensions to enter data?
Natively. So no, it's depends on, like, we really the two big use cases, and I can also show the one big use case. I made a mock-up of our orders sheet. So that's where we put in all our B2B orders. We really have like two sides to the business, right? There's the Shopify D2C web shop side, and then there is the B2B side, right, where we are selling to cafes, we're selling into retail, and so on. And there we're using a form to just enter new orders, right? So it's just an Airtable form, but then for production and logging, it's just natively on the phone.
That's awesome. And were you using Airtable when you started Roy Kombucha, or did you find it afterwards and start to refine from there?
I used Airtable a lot in my old company already. I think we started using it in 2014 or 15. That's when we sort of discovered it, and we liked it because I think it looked better than a spreadsheet. That's basically why we used it, and it came from Silicon Valley or so, and then we were into it basically. But no, that's why I had always had it in my mind, and I already used Airtable and I still have that log from the very first batch of water kefir. It was, and not kombucha, but doesn't matter. From the very first batch I made at home. So right at some point I started making, when I was already a bit more serious about it also. So I was tracking pH levels and sugar levels, and I was already doing that in Airtable. So I kind of have, you could say, like, it goes back to really day -1 in Airtable, our business.
That's awesome. So like before you started, you're logging your pH levels of all your home brews, and like would you record like the results and like how good it tastes, so you could see like what your best.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
And how like pH would progress over time. So I would do a daily test, and of course also sugar levels, and exactly. And I was logging the taste and
Right. And specific gravity, is that something you have to do?
Yeah, not really. Like, we just call it bricks, but it's kind of the same. I never understood why it is kind of the same, but there's some, I think you can sort of calculate it from bricks. Specific gravity is more something that a beer brewer, or I think they use in wine. Yeah,
Definitely. I've brewed my own beer before, and so that's the only experience I've
really
had.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that, basically. Yeah.
Wonderful. And I love that on your website you offer home brewing kits as well. That's such a cool idea.
Yeah, we started doing that in the first lockdown in March and April last year. So people were at home, and we have a lot of kombucha, so we just like bought all the stuff together and became that became our product as well then.
I love that. That's a really innovative idea as well. Just give something.
It's interesting because in the US, like, not that many of the bigger brands do it. Actually, I don't know of any bigger brand that sells homebrewing kits. They're all very in the no, we don't give away the secret of how we do it, right? But we think we think of it as the sort of the big plus of kombucha, that hey, you can have a piece of our mother culture in a way, right? So
I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's really nice because you of the interactions also you have with people, right? And we maybe had, I know, a couple of hundred or so people reach out to us, and they ask us about stuff, how to brew, like what flavor they should use, or most famous question always is it mold, right? Because kombucha looks very strange in the jar, or it can look like wax. It can look like the yeast can look very, it can look a bit moldy. So then we always say, no, it's not mold.
Right. That's so cool. And so this is just a curiosity question, is what separates that from becoming alcoholic? Like, do you have to do something to stop it from fermenting to that point, or is it because there's no sugar?
No, there's sugar. Yeah, there is also alcohol. So kombucha has 1% to 2% alcohol when you make it at home. So most likely that what I'm drinking here, right, is a 1% to 2%, let's say 1% alcohol.
Awesome.
because yeast makes CO2, carbon dioxide, and alcohol at the same time, basically, and also at this almost the same rate. So you have a first fermentation and then the second fermentation. The first fermentation is always aerobic. You let oxygen in, and the second fermentation is anaerobic. So mostly people use it in a gross style bottle, right? That they close and they really trap the gas inside, and then the yeast is very happy. And that's where you then also develop quite a bit of alcohol.
Right.
So we're our kombucha in cans is non-alcoholic, which means below 0.5% in alcohol, which I think is in the US, it's the same.
Yeah.
We just you have to use certain tricks, let's put it like that, in order to not reach super high alcohol levels.
Awesome. Yeah, that's super interesting.
The best trick you can do is so you need a lot of oxygen, right? And the problem is with beer tanks you take from beer brewing, that the tanks are usually very narrow and very deep. So oxygen can only come in on the top, right? But everything that's below in the tank will be very oxygen deprived. So that's a good recipe for developing alcohol. So the best kombucha tank you can have is very, very wide and very shallow. So the best kombucha tank actually is a pool, right? If you could ferment in a pool, that would be best. And there's even a company in the US that makes sort of it's a tank layout where it sort of draws.
Okay.
Right? And sort of, yeah. So it's basically made for kombucha brewing. So a lot of oxygen can enter the brew.
That's interesting. So you just want to like increase the surface area that's touching the oxygen.
Exactly. Yeah. And then that way, a lot of the alcohol that is so the symbiosis is always yeast is producing alcohol, and then the bacteria takes that alcohol and converts it into organic acids, and you're really like increasing the speed in which bacteria is converting that alcohol into organic acids. So that's why you end up with a brew that's much lower in alcohol. Right. But you need a lot of space, right? I mean, if you want to have a pool somewhere, you need a lot of floor space. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that is so cool. Thank you for explaining that. I've always wondered. And so what are your plans moving forward with Airtable? Are there things that you're working on implementing, or maybe things you haven't been able to yet?
Yeah, we're reaching a size of the company now where sort of we want to go more into retail, and we're starting to work with a partner, with a distributor, who sort of asked us, so what kind of enterprise resource planning tool do you use? Can we please connect this to ours? And then sort of, let's say one big supermarket doesn't have us on stock anymore, so their software automatically puts the order into the distributor software, and then sort of gets pushed down automatically to our software, right? Yeah, and we're like, okay, yeah, let's look into it. And I looked into it, and I hate these pieces of software, right? It's so complicated. Like you would have something like from Oracle or SAP or I don't know. There are like then gazillions of vendors of these pieces of software, and they're super complicated, like very complicated. And also, you don't really want to use it. You know, you look at it, and it's sort of, you see that salespeople were running around and they were talking to customers, and then the customers were like, yeah, it would be awesome if we would have this feature and that feature and this feature, and then they were just coming back and the developers would just add stuff to it, right? But not really structure it in a way so it makes sense, right? And it's not really coming with a comprehensive plan in a way. So I've looked at many in the last weeks, and back to your question, sorry, I'm rambling here. Back to your question, basically, I'm trying to build this in Airtable.
Awesome.
So I think for us as a small business, I mean, we're growing, and we really have the need for warehousing. Like we really need to know what's in the storage. Really have a need for proper inventory management and so on. But that's sort of the big project at the moment is connecting everything. For instance, I use now Parabola to import all our Shopify data into Airtable, and
that's awesome.
It's going to take a couple of more weeks, but then I get to the point where that distributor is going to ask, can we now sort of link our systems, and then I will have to really go into API stuff and so on. But so far I'm convinced we can do. So far I haven't started anything in Airtable that I couldn't do in Airtable, which is very interesting. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And especially with the scripting app and being able to add those API calls natively, that's such a game changer.
Yeah. And exactly, that came half a year ago or 3-4 months ago, like a big push and a big update basically. Which I'm not on top of at all, to be honest. Like, it's not that, like, it's not, I would consider myself also more in the beginner space of figuring stuff out. I'm also not that, like, I think because of Airtable, I'm looking into JavaScript more and more.
That's awesome.
Basically, right? I mean, I'm also doing, I'm okay with HTML and CSS, so it also helps there. But I think for scripting, I've become more and more interested in it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's been really helpful it's helped me learn JavaScript more and more too, just working with it.
Pushes you towards it, right?
Exactly. You know, I was actually looking at a blog post that you had written ahead of this, and it was about the taste gap, it was called. Do you recall?
Yeah. Oh, were you on my website?
Yeah.
I went to my website. Like, I'm trying to update. Oh, I'm blushing. Like, I'm trying to update this website for years and trying to put more content on there.
I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. No, I loved it though. I mean, like, there was you had written just a really short blog post about the taste gap and how when you develop a taste for something and you want it to be really good, and when you start doing it and you're like, oh, this isn't very good because you're yearning for something that you're not good enough yet to do. And I was like, you could relate that to Airtable so perfectly. Like, you could get
yeah. So but all credit belongs to this guy called Ira Glass, who's
Ira Glass.
We saw it years ago. He has like a really cool video about the taste gap, and I just put it as a blog post on my website at some point, because I think you can really relate to a lot of things in life, right? With that concept. Yeah.
Exactly. Absolutely. No, I thought that was really, really an interesting point. And I immediately was like, that's exactly how I felt when I started with Airtable, because I was like, I want to be really good. And I started building it and I'm like, oh, this is not good. But then, you get better and better over time.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to see what you've been working on, if you want to dive into your screen share.
Let's do it. So I've created this little mock-up, like, didn't want to give away because this is a pretty important sheet for us, right? Because we are basically tracking all our orders in here.
Right.
And yeah, we have competitors who are looking for this as well. And basically, this is where we are tracking all the orders and where we are, where we live in basically every day, right? And I've just created some sample data here, and it's sort of it started very simple, but it expanded over the months, and I had to update it to kind of make it work for us. And where we have it today is, we're quite happy about it. So if I go through here, so the first thing you see is sort of we have our products in here. So we have like kombucha as a ginger kombucha, and we have a raspberry kombucha, malt kombucha, and then we also sell this as a case, and these cases are individual products. Very, very easy. Then it took me some time to figure out that I have to create these what is called order line items, right? So because in the order sheet, which you see later, then if you want to have multiple, and I guess you know this, if you want to have multiple different products per order in different quantities, you would have to have order line items to add to that line. And for a couple of months, we actually had it that sort of one order would be three 3 rows, right? And
Right.
that felt a bit stupid. So yeah, at some point I figured this out, and I was very, very happy about it. What I'm not so happy about, and yeah, if you know how to make this better, I'd be super happy. If not, then we just have to stick to it. Is sort of this is sort of the mock-up now, but of course in the real case scenario, we have 150, 200 different order line items in our base, right? Which is because we need the quantity. The quantity is individual for every order line item.
Yeah.
So if someone now orders 79 ginger cases, then I have to add another order line item. Yeah.
Right.
And that is a bit annoying sometimes. Sort of, it doesn't feel. That's where I sometimes feel like, it's not 100% made for that. But
Right.
but it's good enough. I mean, we're still sticking to it with a lot of orders. So yeah, sort of that's this part. Then clients is clients, of course. Sort of create some clients here. Google, Apple, and Amazon are buying from us, and some cafes and bakeries that my partner yesterday, she's from Oxford, so she just gave me some names from there.
Nice.
And then we add the of course, first name, last name, address, and stuff like this. Then sometimes we have it that like one, I put it here, the Society Cafe is in London, is in Oxford, is in Bristol, right? So we have different stores, which is just important for us for invoicing and then also for delivering. Yeah, but really the big heart of this sheet is the orders table, where sort of we put all the orders in, and yeah, this really grew, as you can see here. It has like something like 60 fields or so, where which maybe are necessary, maybe not. I'm not so sure, but sort of the first thing it has is an order number, of course, and then you have to put in which client, and you have to put in which store. Then of course it has an order date, and we need to say when should this be delivered. Then of course the products, which is referencing to that to those order line items that we talked about before. Then very interesting for us is to see how many cases this is in total and how many cans this is in total, right? So it's always interesting to see, like, and just how many cans in the entire order, right? Which we're calculating, which I'm calculating here. This is a German word, Dosenrückgabe, right? Which is called basically, we have a deposit system for cans, and some of our B2B customers, they just give the cans back to us instead of putting them into a vending machine for deposit. Right. So that's what we are. That's what we're putting in here. Then, if that is the case, we can put in some notes. Based on this, we're building a sum. We have a delivery fee. Sometimes we give a discount, which that ends up is then a net amount in the end. Here we're tracking if this has been delivered. We put in the delivery slip, we put in the invoice number and the invoice date. We say if the invoice is sent, we say if the invoice is paid, which we also hear in a different view. There we can see invoices that have still to be sent or outstanding invoices, which of course is very, very good to see and very helpful. During COVID, we had 16% VAT, so now it's back to 19. So at some point, I can sort of, in my other base, I have so many old orders that I have had to keep in order not to destroy the data. I had to create the 16 or 19 column, which is a bit annoying, but it's there now. And then we have a total sum for the invoice and a gross sum for the invoice, including VAT, because under apps, we are also here we have a couple of templates. This always takes a while to load. They could increase the speed of the apps.
I agree. I think it's slowed down a little bit recently too, it feels like.
And there we have our invoice templates and the delivery slip template, and sort of, yeah, but that's basically it. So we are creating invoices out of this, and then we're sending it. Which kind of, before that, my business partner Fabio was like creating invoices manually pretty much, right? And now like it saves so much time to just do it straight out of Airtable. What I want to do here is I want to do it on click, so you can just ideally you would just click and it would generate the PDF and download it automatically. Maybe even send it to the customer, but I'm not sure whether we want that.
Right.
Yeah,
that's a big thing that I myself and a lot of Airtable users included are missing with Page Designer, is that you can't grab it automatically and attach it to the record.
Exactly.
You have to print it. Yeah. But hopefully someday they'll fix that, because that would be huge functionality.
That would be really, really cool. And I remember like it's this sort of version of the base is now a couple months old already. So I built it maybe last summer or so. And I remember being on the Airtable community for a long time, looking for something. How can I download stuff on the push of a button, basically, right? And generate a PDF on the push of a button.
Right.
But it's apparently they're not available. Yeah, so that's how we do it at the moment.
Awesome.
And I always have the month view where we work in, and then there's an edit view, which is where which is broken now. Interesting, huh? It never happened before, but it happens on the Airtable live podcast.
Of course.
Wait, I'm just reloading this.
Of course.
No, I'm serious. This has never not loaded. Like never. So here we are in the edit view, where I always put a careful or something behind, right? So people don't mess around with it.
Right.
And this is where all the fields are visible. Yeah, and then you can see all the calculations that are necessary in order to get to this stuff. Really annoying is on German invoices, we need to have a comma and not a dot.
Right.
And so I always, when I want to put stuff on an invoice, I have to convert it, the dot to a comma, and it's not trivial. It's quite complicated to do it. It sounds very trivial. But this is the formula that is necessary in order to do that.
I have pretty much exactly the same formula in my base as well, but not for commas, just to format it as a number to like send in an email or something. But that's so funny. It's written almost exactly the same.
Yeah. So if Airtable could change that and allow natively for different number formats, that would be very helpful.
Agreed.
Sometimes the delivery date we also have to reformat, because there's no German support for because we're putting this on the delivery slip, and there it needs to be in German. I mean, I'm not even sure whether it has to be in German, but we put it in German, and we just wanted it that way. Or maybe my business partner Fabio wanted it that way, so I said, okay, that's no problem, I can make it happen. And then you have to. I've just used these substitute formulas where I just substitute all the English words with the German word, right?
Perfect.
Yeah, and which I think is which helped us a lot, is seeing month and year, having a month and year view, which we do with this this month formula, where we put the month of the order date or the year of the order date, and then, as you saw in the month view, it's then clustered according to year 2020, 2021, and the month.
Right.
Then figuring out roll-up stuff has been huge, like very, very cool. And but then this is some individual calculations, but that's pretty much it. Then we just have we have the delivery today function, where we see, okay, what what's due to be delivered today, which invoices have to be sent, how much revenue did we make here in 2020. The clients that we have what is called a leaderboard, where we just see our best clients and see how everyone else is performing. And I said before, like how we for new orders we always use this form to put in new orders. It's a lot easier to do that actually than to do it in the base itself.
Right.
But that's how we do it. And then maybe one last view here is the number of cases sold per channel. Always good for analysis and business analysis, sort of under clients. Every client is a type.
Right.
And this type is either office, gastronomy, retail. This is basically it. Event. There were events before, but COVID, right? Basically then we're this is going back to that separation between those different channels, and then we can see how strongly a certain channel grows from month to month, basically. And this is more flavor view. So how many cases did we sell in total, but then also across. We have a few more flavors actually, but I put in only 3 here. And then we can see how many ginger cases did we sell, how many raspberry, how many mate, proportionally, how stuff like this, which always helps us decide on new flavors, and it helps us decide which flavors to keep and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's sort of it.
Awesome.
So it was interesting because it's so when there's nothing before, and then like you get it. It took a long time to actually build it to this level. Although it might now when you look at it, looks quite simple. But it was a couple of months basically of, always in sprints. Let's say like always in 1-2 days. I need to figure this out, how to make this better. How can we structure this? And we're pretty happy with it. It works really, really well now.
Absolutely. No, I can tell you're capturing like everything you'd need to capture to track your orders.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the order line items table. That's something I think a lot of people struggle with, is they might build it out, and then once they start realizing they can't put the quantity anywhere, they're like, oh wait, what do I do?
Exactly. But once you figure that out, you're very, very happy, right? Because then suddenly your orders table really feels like, I don't have to spend 3 rows on one order. That's good.
Exactly.
And by doing this is sort of our, like the mother base in a way, right? So this really helped me figure out a lot of Airtable functionality, talking about roll-ups, talking about lookup, how to connect different tabs. So basically now, because now I'm going one step further, and I'm trying to build this inventory sheet where this is one data in feed, right? Because this is our B2B side, and then there's the Shopify side, and this then goes into a big inventory sheet which is linked to production. So that is it's sort of next level stuff again. So, and that's cool. I think that's what you meant with the taste gap, and sort of you're trying to, it could be really cool, but you don't really know 100% yet how you get there, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Are you gonna use like synced bases to do that?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's what's needed. Yeah,
definitely.
From what I can tell so far. Yeah.
Well, wonderful. Yeah, that's so cool. I wish you the best of luck on that project too. That'll be fun.
Thank you. Yeah. No, it's gonna be really cool. I'm always having a lot of fun building Airtable stuff.
It is so fun. I'm a total nerd. It makes me so happy. That's awesome. So where can our listeners go to learn more about you and about Roy Kombucha?
RoyKombucha.com is our website. We ship Europe-wide, at least Europe-wide.
Nice.
And not really at the moment, but soon again. Or KombuchaSummit.com. This is the conference I talked about before.
Excellent.
Or the website, my private website, of which I'm not giving the giving the domain now, which you discovered, but which I'm going to build out soon.
Excellent. Sorry about that. I thought it was super interesting. I loved it.
Okay, good.
Oh my goodness. Well, we'll put links to those in the show notes. And thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thank you, Ali. It was very nice.
It was great. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to give it a like or hit us up on social at BuiltOnAir. We always love to hear your comments and suggestions. And don't forget to subscribe to catch new episodes when they release. It helps us keep the podcast going.